Hello, relatives. I'm up here in Colorado now, Horsetooth Reservoir, staying with some friends preparing for ceremony. I wanted to offer you a story today, so please share. Keep these stories alive. So once, when the world was younger, there were these little beings, and they didn't know too much about anything. All they really knew was light. And one day, they awakened. They found themselves in this environment that was cool and bright and wet. They slowly came to awareness of who and what they were. They realized they were little water nymphs. And oh, they swam in the water, and they lived their little lives, and they ate what they ate, and they did what they did, and they played when they played. And oh, they all lived together in pretty well congruency. They all knew each other, good community, good friends, and they really didn't think much about anything at all. They just lived their lives. They didn't think about what came next, what came before, didn't think about yesterday, didn't think about tomorrow. They were so purely in the joy of the moment. But slowly, each and every one of them begin to feel this urge, this calling of something next, something coming. And oh, now they begin to think about what was coming tomorrow and what it was. Now they begin to look around at their environment and really pay attention to where they were, what they were doing. They realized that the light seemed to come from this place above. They realized that the farther down they went, there was darkness. They began to feel things they hadn't really registered before, like fear and anxiety and worry and challenges, and they really didn't like it. Now they begin to think about yesterday. What was it? They remembered this place before there was worry and fear and thoughts of tomorrow, and oh, they wish they could come back. But the curiosity grew as the calling grew deeper. So they would come closer to the light because that was so much more preferable than the darkness below. And they would peer up above the water. They would look at all the things, although distorted, they could see, and they wondered and they wondered and they wondered. And then one day, the first of them crawled out and broke the barrier of the water. Oh, what are they doing? So fearful, and they didn't come back. And then another crawled out of the water. The same thing disappeared and never came back. And another and another. And the remaining ones began to get more concerned and more confused, because as the calling grew in them, they knew too they were going to be called above the water. And as though so many of them tried to just stay where they were and ignore the calling, it seemed to grow. One day, as their community grew smaller and smaller, they gathered together and they said, we have to do something about this fear, this worry they have, so let us come to an agreement. Let us agree that the next one of us that cannot resist the urge to crawl above the surface, that they will come back and they will tell us what it is above the water, why we have this call, what comes next, so that we can know that we don't just disappear, for we have no idea, and oh, we miss our brother, and you must come back and tell us. And they all made this agreement that yes, they would do this thing. And one by one, the call grew too strong, and they crawled above the surface of the water and disappeared. The rest of them waited because the promise had been made. They must come back and share with what's above, and yet nobody came back. Then there was this one water nymph who, feeling in that hurt, that abandonment, that broken promise, vowed to themselves that no matter what, they would be the one to come back. And one morning, awakening, the call grew so strong it was almost a violation of their self. Doesn't matter how afraid they were. They pulled themselves above the line of the water, pulled themselves up, and found themselves almost frozen. And they found themselves wrapping themselves around and going to sleep and having these crazy, vivid dreams of experience they didn't understand. They didn't know where they would come from, what was happening, until one day they awoke, but they awoke for real. The second awakening in their lives, and when they did, and they climbed out of this little vessel they had built around themselves, and they moved, they found that they weren't who they were anymore. They stretched out these marvelous, incredible wings. They looked back and saw this long, brilliant tail. The way that they saw the world, in fact, was so completely different, multifaceted, fractals all around. They could see everywhere, above and below. The light was brilliant. The power they felt in themselves were so strong. The urge to beat their wings grew, and so they followed it and found themselves lifting, flying, hovering, and all of a sudden the entirety of the world transformed as they found themselves zipping up and down and left and right and turning circles, and the freedom of it was bliss. And they lived, and they ate, and they did all the things dragonflies do. And then one day they remembered this promise that they had made. I am supposed to go back and tell my brethren what it is that is above the waterline. Yes, I vowed, and the strength in them was born. And so they went back to the place where they had emerged and had their second awakening and dropped down to the water. But the moment they did, they felt the weight of the water on their bodies and had to lift up, barely finding themselves clutching to a plant coming from the water. They did not know what to do. They must fulfill this promise, mustn't they? They remembered vaguely the fear of being beneath the waterline, wondering what was next. And oh, did he wish to tell his brethren how amazing it was up here, and there was nothing to fear. There was no loss. There was only beauty and freedom. But he couldn't get beneath the waterline so long. He had lived fearing rising above. And so he sat on the leaf of that plant and called down day after day, night after night, telling them, encouraging them, seeking to see them. Where are they to come and hear? But he couldn't get beneath it. All he could do was hope that his message would be received, for if he knew if he was to drop beneath the waterline, he himself would disappear, and either way there would be no message. And so he tried, and he tried, and he tried, and he felt himself growing older and more brittle, and realized that he was running out of time to live his life, to enjoy his freedom, to explore his world and reality. Having never made contact with his brethren, all he could do was hope. Finally, letting go, not giving up, he beat his wings once again and returned to his life of freedom and joy and bliss, only praying that his brethren received the message. The whole time he sat calling down into the water his messages of beauty. As he had experienced, his brethren had sat and waited, feeling the hurt of the broken promises, the abandonment of their family, not being able to hear, for the boundary of the water was so thick and so great. They too had to follow their own path, finding out for themselves, having no idea the time that had expired of their brother above their water, wasting his life, wasting the precious time Creator had given him, trying to report back to resolve the fear of those that could not hear him. Does this sound familiar to any of you? We have awakenings, each and every one of us do. And by the way, if you're on the spiritual path, know that you're going to have multiple awakenings. It's not just one. Sorry, not a one and done. And every time you have an awakening, there's collapse, because there must be collapse in order to be rebuilt. There must be death in order to have rebirth. And although there isn't always pleasure in the process. It can be outright painful. It is really what we choose to look at. Just as the dragonfly initially felt the surge of power within himself, the freedom of flight and beauty, for a while there he lived for himself and enjoyed it. But when he remembered those that were still in fear, he fulfilled his promise and he went back. But when he found that the promise could not be fulfilled, he didn't let go. It was guilt that motivated him, shame that motivated him, but also the desire to pass on what he had learned, to pass on the love and joy that he was getting to experience. But how many of us have learned something and wish to take it back to our loved ones or our friends to share with them? Hey, it's going to be okay. Hey, this is good. Hey, this isn't a negative thing. Hey, let's come together. And so often we are met with resistance, sometimes anger, the accusations of we have changed or we have left them behind. They don't know who we are anymore. When we become so light in our realities and our worlds, and we begin to have these realizations that we do need to love ourselves, and this life is about us. There are others in it. And when we love ourselves, there's nothing to offer anybody else but love. But when we come to this place where we're motivated both by the positive and negative, and we find ourselves stuck speaking to those that cannot hear us, speaking to those sometimes where our words actually cause them pain because they're not ready, or trying to save people who have received the call but are too fearful to answer it. All of that time that we have spent, it's our words falling on deaf ears. It does them no good. And it does ourselves no good. Now, this isn't to say that we shouldn't try. But once we have spoken, once we have shared what we have learned, if it is not received, at what point in time do we say to ourselves, okay, it is not yet their time, so that we can go back to appreciating what we have learned, where we have expanded, evolved, and grown? Or do we still sit there trying so desperately to lift others up while they are so anchored in the old reality that they couldn't, even if they wanted to? So now when I find myself in that place where I have offered what I've learned, not from a place of ego or judgment or because they're wrong, but simply because I know the freedom that those learnings gave me, and I wish to share that with people. And if they can't hear me, then I have to let go, because otherwise, am I not stealing my joy and their joy in the moment? Am I not trying to force something that is not mine to force? Am I not in a place of judgment of you need to know this, you should know this, you have to know this, otherwise... ... It isn't a failure on your part if you cannot be heard. Sometimes it is simply a place of readiness on theirs. And this is where trust and faith come in. Share what you have learned. See it as a seed planted. And then be patient and have faith that when it is time for that seed to emerge, it will. And at the same time, not to sit in a place of judgment of, they're not going to get it, they're not ready, they don't care, without even having tried first. Because if you do not plant the seed, it will never flourish. Dragonflies and butterflies are amazing. They transmute, they do not transform. They are created with two separate sets of DNA. Two, not one. When they're a caterpillar, all they know is a caterpillar, and they tend not to seek anything outside of what a caterpillar seeks, because they're a caterpillar, and that's what caterpillars do. Why would a caterpillar seek to become a butterfly? Think as a butterfly thinks, plan to be a butterfly. It wouldn't. It's a freaking caterpillar. And it's not until it receives the call does its thoughts begin to change. It is not until it enters into the chrysalis and dissolves into goo, which for those of you on the path or in that stage or have come out of that stage or perhaps are beginning that stage, yeah, it sucks. Everything we knew, everything we thought to be true, talk about needing to question everything because so much of it is, well, not. But see, that goo does not transform into the butterfly, into the dragonfly. Instead, the second strand of DNA, once that process of gooification is complete, that activates. That's why there is no adolescent stage. Instead, the shape of a full-grown entity is born. But see, here's the deal. That butterfly, that dragonfly, uses the goo of its old self to nourish itself and to build its own body. And this is what we are meant to do, my relatives. We are meant to compost the old self, the old life, the old lies we used to believe, the old person that we thought that we were, that we clung so deeply to, thinking that that was our value or our worth. That is who we are and who we're supposed to be. No, it is not the old self becoming the new self. It is the new self being born and using the old self to grow it, to build it, taking and extracting what is nutritious, what is a gift, what is positive, and what is useful to build the new self, the new life, the new reality, and everything else, letting go. And no one can help you come out of the chrysalis, and if they were to try to, they would do you a disservice, because your strength would never truly been born, that knowing that you did it, you followed the process, you answered the calling, you awoke, you got it done. That is such a place of empowerment and worth and value that cannot be replaced or gained in any other way. We have to go through it. It is a disservice to try to save ourselves or save others from the process, because the only way that it goes away is for the process to become complete. And as we know, if someone was to come by and see the butterfly struggling in the chrysalis and try to cut it loose and help it and free it, then those wings, the battle to free itself, the blood pumping through the being that causes the expansion, the strength that causes the wings to open as the fluid is pumped through for that struggle, never happens. The chrysalis instead is then cut. This beautiful entity emerges, but it can never fly because somebody helped it and made it too easy. So if you feel like you are in a place where you are not getting helped, know that it is not because you are bad or wrong or being punished or nobody loves you, but because this is the experience that you need to grow yourself, to empower yourself, to find the strength so that you can step into that bliss and that freedom. You can come to know yourself in a way that you would never be able to come to know in any other way without the struggle and the challenge and the rebirth. And this is why, yes, we can offer a helping hand, and if they grasp it, lift them up, but do not reach down into the water, damaging yourself to lift them out, because then you are damaged, they are damaged, and forever will they be waiting for a hand to lift them out. And if we choose to not move on our own, for we sit to wait for the hand to help us out, then we will always be waiting for that hand. And when will we ever learn that we have the strength and the power to do it ourselves? When will we ever have that level of love and self-compassion and faith in ourselves that we can indeed do this? So much love, relatives. We all have a dragonfly or a butterfly within us, each and every one of us. We have the before and we have the after. Do not sit in a place of displeasure or pain or hurt. If you are in the before, lean into the knowing that there will be an after, and that after, if you allow it, once you have dissolved, once you have regone, once you have catalyzed everything from your past into strength and power, confidence, the freedom that exists there for you, the voice that you can lend to plant the seeds of hope and faith and understanding in others, it is beyond worth it, my relatives. Much love and have a beautiful day.